Hey guys, Welsknight here, and welcome to a bit of a different type of video. I want to talk today about the change to the YouTube Partnership Program, aka the change for small creators especially to be able to monetize their videos on YouTube and put ads on them. This is something that recently was announced by YouTube. The changes are going to be going into effect as of February 20th. I'm sure you've probably seen some other people talking about it as well. But I wanted to talk about it because I think it's important. The game you're seeing played is a game called Slay the Spire. It is a deck-building roguelike. It's actually amazing. I'm loving it to death, but I'm playing it on the second channel right now if you want to see more of it. For the purposes of this video, the gameplay really doesn't matter. It's just there so there's something on the screen while I'm talking about this. Think of this video more as a podcast than anything else. If you want to just minimize it, that's totally fine. I just wanted to have something on the screen for you. So anyway, let's get back to the discussion. I wanted to talk about this because I do think it's important, and I think I have some unique perspective on this because I am I'm what a lot of people would consider to be a larger creator at this point. But I'm also someone who has only been on YouTube for about 3 years. A lot of the larger creators who have been talking about this, your guys like Philip DeFranco and Doc M and Vintage Beef, for example, a lot of those people started back when there was a partnership requirement. You had to apply for partnership before you could partner. And not only that, those requirements were not clearly laid out anywhere, and they were much higher than what they're going to be as of February 20th. I started after those people. I started back when the floodgates had already been opened and YouTube said, hey, if you have a pulse and you are alive, you can monetize your videos on YouTube, and that's perfectly okay. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit because I think it's important. And I've seen a lot of different things on the internet. I've been kind of doing some reading on it and having some conversations about it and all that other kind of stuff. I've seen people talking about it on Reddit and on YouTube and on Twitter and all these other kinds of things. And there's a lot of backlash towards YouTube for this. And I'm not saying that that backlash is not justified. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm completely and fully in favor of this change, but I do understand where YouTube is coming from. And I'm optimistic that this is going to be a net positive. It certainly has its negatives. It certainly has its downsides. But I do think that it's not as bad as some people are making it out to be. So let me kind of dive into it a little bit. With a little bit of a backstory. Let's start with a little bit of backstory. Long, long ago, in the olden days of YouTube, before I was born, well, not born, but before I started YouTube, YouTube did allow people to put ads on their videos, but you had to apply. You had to apply to be a YouTube partner. And then they would review your application, and if you were approved, you would become a YouTube partner and gain the ability to put ads in your video, or on your videos. Partnership also came with certain features that most of us nowadays just take for granted. The ability to make videos longer than 10 minutes, the ability to upload thumbnails, the ability to do all these different types of things, scheduling videos, all that kind of stuff. That was all tied to being a YouTube partner. So back in the day, before I started YouTube, back when the guys like Paul Soares Jr. and Doc M and Philip DeFranco and all those, all the really big names on YouTube for the most part, the people who have been around far longer than myself, back when they started, being a partner was a much bigger deal than it is now. So that was a thing. And then before I started YouTube, sometime between when, those people who've been around longer than me started, and then when I started, sometime in between that time frame, YouTube opened up the floodgates and said, hey, anyone who wants to monetize their videos can do so. You could just, anybody can be a YouTube partner. So then anyone gained that ability, anyone gained access to those features. A lot of people became YouTube partners and didn't even put ads on their video just so they could have access to those tools like the scheduling and the thumbnails and the longer videos, etc., etc. Then, in roughly April or so, I think it was, of last year, YouTube said, hey, we need some standards. Some bad stuff has happened. We're getting a lot of flack from advertisers because their ads are being shown on things like extremist content. Advertisers are pulling out of YouTube. It's the adpocalypse. It's all going downhill. We need standards. So YouTube established a standard and said, hey, if you want to be able to monetize your video, you need 10,000 views over the lifetime of your channel across all of your videos. So basically your channel needs to have accumulated a total of at least 10,000 views. And that happened, and there was some backlash then, but 10,000 views really isn't that much as far as YouTube goes. I think I hit that within maybe 2 or 3 months of starting my channel, something like that. Like it's a lot, but it's not that much. That's like one video getting traction. That's like one good video that makes it in search results or something like that. That could be your 10,000 views just there from one good video. So it's, it's a hurdle, but it's not astronomical. And there was some backlash back then. And then it went on for a while. And now YouTube announced a couple days ago, that they're changing those requirements again. And they're saying, hey, if you want to monetize, if you want to be a YouTube partner, we're altering the deal. We are saying you now need 1,000 subscribers and you need 4,000 hours or 240,000 minutes of watch time over the last year. And that's a much, much higher standard. That's a much larger bar to cross. To kind of put that into perspective for you, I generally get about 10 minutes per view. Just on average, and I mean, obviously it's going to vary depending on the type of content you make and how long your videos are and how good your videos are and all these other kind of things. But I usually average about 10 minutes per view, per video. One person on average watches each one of my videos for 10 minutes. So that'd be like 240,000 views. Or no, I can't math. Just kidding. That would be like 24,000 views. So that's like essentially 2.5 times the amount of views, if not more. I mean, certain channels are going to be affected by that more than other, by the change to watch time more than others. If you're like an animation channel that, your videos are 1.5 minutes long, this hurts. This hurts very badly for animation channels. But that, it's a much higher standard now. And there's been some very significant backlash, especially from small creators. And I don't disagree with them. I understand why a lot of smaller creators are upset. And I also want to point out, YouTube is one of those weird things where, for the most part, no matter how big you get on YouTube, you always feel like a small creator. Back when I was first starting YouTube, when I had 100 subscribers, I felt like a super small creator, and I thought, if I ever make 1,000 subscribers, that means I've made it. That means I'll be a big YouTuber, And then I hit 1,000 subscribers and said, man, I'm still a small, tiny YouTuber. If I ever hit 10,000 subscribers, that's when I'll be a big name on YouTube, And then you hit 10,000, you're like, man, I'm still a small fish. If I ever hit 100,000 subscribers, I'll be a small name on YouTube. And then you hit 100,000 and you're like, man, I'm still a small fish. I need at least 1 million before I'm it's one of those weird things that no matter how much you grow, it always seems like you're just a small fish in a big pond. Which to an extent is true. So, even though I have 250,000 subscribers, I'm not a massively large channel as far as, the grand landscape of YouTube. I'm not someone who makes millions of dollars on YouTube. I don't make enough money to last me lifetimes. I make enough to pay my bills and get by. And that's going to be the majority of creators. The number of creators who can actually make absurd amounts of money on YouTube, enough to live for multiple lifetimes, those are your guys like your Jake Pauls and your PewDiePies. Most channels smaller than that are making enough to maybe live comfortably, are making enough to get by, but are not, driving around in a Ferrari and living in a Beverly Hills mansion. So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked already. But anyway, I want to address a couple points that I've seen brought up. I've seen a lot of people saying things like, this is killing my channel. YouTube is killing my channel. I've seen things thrown out saying, well, YouTube doesn't recommend videos that aren't monetized as much. And there's no evidence to support that. And YouTube themselves have actually come out and said that monetization has no effect whatsoever on recommendations and search rankings. So until I see evidence to the contrary, I'm going to go with what YouTube says on that regard. So no, this is not killing small channels. This is taking away some income from small channels. And to put it into perspective, from the day that I started my channel to the day that I hit both of these two metrics that YouTube is going to require as of February 20th, it was about 5 months. It took me about 5 months from day zero of Welsknight gaming to hit 1,000 subscribers and roughly 4,000 hours of watch time. It was roughly 5.5 months, somewhere in there. Over the course of that, I did just some kind of like, back of the napkin calculations. The income there from the amount of views and stuff that I had would have been somewhere between $50 and $150, maybe $200 if it was in like December, which is the highest time of the year. But I'd say, somewhere between $50 and $150 of ad revenue is what I would have made for hitting both of those metrics. YouTube is not killing channels by taking away $50 to $150. Nobody's going full time on that kind of money. It's just not enough to live on. And I'm not saying that money isn't important, especially for small creators. That might be a new microphone. That might be a new piece of editing software. That might be something to upgrade your setup and reinvest into your channel. Or it might be something to pay your electricity. I'm not saying it's not important. But people who say, well, this has just killed my dreams of becoming a YouTuber, I think they're either catastrophizing or they're exaggerating. One or the other. Because nobody's going full-time YouTube on that kind of money. It's just not possible. It's not enough money to go full-time on. So that's one thing that I wanted to address. I've also seen a lot of small channels say, it's not about the money. It's about the lack of respect. It's about YouTube basically just, just showing that they don't care about small channels. And for that, I would say, welcome to YouTube. That's YouTube in a nutshell. YouTube is notorious for lack of communication and mistreating their creators in general. That's why people leave YouTube all the time. That doesn't change when you get more subscribers, unless you're, one of the golden boys of YouTube, unless you're one of the Paul brothers or PewDiePie or something. That doesn't change. YouTube is notoriously bad for taking care of their creators, or rather for not taking care of their creators. Every YouTuber of note who I've ever talked with could probably just talk your ear off complaining about things related to YouTube as a company and YouTube as a corporation. That's just the way it is. So, does it stink, this new change? Absolutely. Does it show that they don't particularly care about small channels? Yes, absolutely. Do they care about large channels? No, they really don't. That's just one of those things. If you ever have a dream of becoming a full-time content creator, a full-time YouTuber, you just need to accept that YouTube doesn't care about you. YouTube doesn't care about me. YouTube doesn't care about BOO. YouTube doesn't care about just about anybody that I know. And that's just the reality of it. And it stinks. And I think that's a terrible way to run a company, but that's not up to me. That's just the way it is. Welcome to YouTube. I think it's, I've also seen a lot of people saying, well, big channels just don't understand the struggle of small channels. And I think I would point out again that a lot of those bigger YouTubers started YouTube back when there were harder and larger partnership requirements that are going to be now. And yes, there was less people on YouTube. The market was less saturated than it is now. But that doesn't mean that it was easier to grow, because there was also a lot less people watching videos. And I don't know. I think that people have a tendency, in general, not just related to this specific thing, but I think a lot of people have a tendency to put more emphasis on their own problems rather than the problems of other people. I think people in general, human beings, have a tendency to kind of want to think, well, I know that stinks for you, but here's the day that I'm having, you know. And I think it's very easy to look at those large creators and say, well, they got it so good, they don't have to deal with any of this. They don't understand what it's like to go through the struggle of growing a channel and stuff like that. And the thing is, you know, anyone who is large on YouTube now was at one point a small content creator. For me, it wasn't that long ago. It was only a couple of years. I've only been on YouTube for a total of 3 years. I've only been full-time on YouTube for about a year now. And it's very fresh in my mind what it was like to be a young, well, young isn't really the right word, but to be a newer content creator and to be working myself to the bone to grow my channel, you know, working 120 hours a week between a full-time job and YouTube and, you know, all that other kind of stuff. I understand better than a lot of people do. And larger creators understand better than a lot of people do too. I mean, I think that's kind of one of those things that, for the most part, content creators, I really think that only content creators can truly understand that content creation grind. You know, I think a lot of people in a lot of different fields of work can understand the idea of grind. You know, I've worked in legal offices. I've worked in courtrooms. I understand the grind. That's a thing. You know, a lot of people get that about working ridiculous hours and all this other kind of stuff. But I don't think a lot of people can really relate to the sheer amount of time and work that goes into growing a successful YouTube channel. Because a lot of people just don't really know all the different things that go on off camera, that go on behind the scenes, all the editing and the rendering and the research and the networking and all these other different things. A lot of people don't understand that, and they don't relate to that because all they see is the video. So I think larger creators understand better than non-creators. You know, larger creators understand that this is a bad change as for smaller YouTubers. Like, this hurts smaller YouTubers, no doubt. Nobody's disagreeing with that. With that said, I think there are some positives as well. There are certain types of channels that are bad that this is going to hopefully essentially do away with. Re-upload channels are probably the most obvious example. Channels that basically just download people's videos, re-upload them on their own channel, monetize them, and make money off of other people's hard work. I'm not talking about reaction videos. I'm not talking about people who take a bunch of videos from a bunch of different people and make montages. I'm not talking about transformative content, or even content that is slightly transformative and maybe not really transformative enough. I'm talking about literally downloading somebody's video, re-uploading it, using their thumbnail and title, and trying to pass their own upload off as the original. These are your channels that are like PewDiePie plays games rather than PewDiePie. These are your Dan TDM the Diamond Minecart rather than Dan TDM. These are your imposter channels essentially, and there's tons of them. They're everywhere on YouTube. I've had videos stolen and re-uploaded. Many of the people that I know have had videos stolen and re-uploaded, and all it is just making it's essentially stealing content. This is going to put a large damper on that because there are now requirements, and it doesn't make it profitable anymore. So I'm hoping that this kind of nips that in the bud. This will also hopefully prevent extremist content from having ads placed on it. I think that's kind of important, and I think just about any advertising company on the face of the planet would agree that they don't want their products being advertised along videos for ISIS or something. And if it does anything to restore advertiser confidence in YouTube, I think that's a good thing, because and I think that's a good thing for both small and large YouTubers alike. It's very, very difficult to become a full-time YouTuber if there is no ad revenue. That's what a lot of small creators don't really understand. For the most part right now, this change benefits larger YouTubers more than it benefits smaller YouTubers, obviously. I think that goes without saying. However, I think in the long term, in the grand scheme, in the big picture, this is a change that hopefully will benefit everyone. Only time will tell. I don't know. Maybe it will. I'm sure somebody much smarter than me thinks that it will, or this change would not have been made. But we'll see. I do, however, think that this is not doom and gloom. This is not the end of the world. This is not the death of small channels on YouTube. All the various features that used to be tied to being a YouTube partner, stuff like thumbnails and videos longer than 10 minutes and the ability to schedule your uploads, all that kind of stuff, that's no longer tied to being a YouTube partner. You just have to have a verified email account. You just have to verify that you're a real person and not a robot. So those features, those account features, are no longer tied to this. So that's not going to, those options are not going to be affected. The different, the monetization stuff, YouTube has come out and said that the monetization status does not affect videos being recommended or ranking in searches. Until I see evidence to the contrary, I'm going to take YouTube at their word for that, or whatever their word is worth. And I think it's important to remember that what this does not do is this does not prevent people from uploading videos. This does not prevent people from having fun. This does not prevent people from growing an audience, and this does not prevent people from someday maybe making their dream of becoming a full-time YouTuber a reality. This does not. When I started YouTube, I did not monetize any of my videos for the first several months. I think I started monetizing my videos after 3 months. I made the first month where I monetized my videos, if I remember correctly, I made $8.56. The next month I made $12 and some cents, and then that number just continued to grow until I got to the point where I said, hey, I can actually live off of this. It took me 5 months from the time I started my channel to hit these metrics. Is it hard? Yes. Is it a lot of work? Absolutely. Is it impossible? No, it's not. It's not impossible. I don't think my content is exceptional. I don't think I'm the funniest person that ever did YouTube or the smartest person that ever did YouTube, and I'm certainly not the best looking person that ever did YouTube. What I do better than a lot of people is I work hard. I put in absurd amounts of hours. I put in more time than is probably healthy. And I think that although my content really isn't anything super special, I mean, I don't think my videos are bad, but I think there are people who put in more effort or are funnier or more entertaining or are better builders or whatever. I think that those people are overshadowed by the people who work harder and who learn things about YouTube like search engine optimization and networking and all these other different things that go into it. There's a lot more to YouTube than just uploading good videos. That's an important part of it, but that's not all of it. And the people I think who will be successful on YouTube are the people who make at least acceptably good videos, but who also learn how to master YouTube itself. I think that is the most important part, is learning how to not just be an entertainer, but how to be a YouTuber. And this does not prevent people from doing this. It stinks for small channels. It does. I don't deny that. And those small channels absolutely have a right to be frustrated and upset at this change. I get where they're coming from. You know, as I said, that income, although it might not seem like much, that income might be a new microphone or a new editing software, or it might just be, you know, taking your wife out for dinner because she puts up with you locking yourself in your office whenever you're home so you can make videos. That's what my wife did. She tolerates, and she still tolerates that. Regardless, I think this is a change that has both positives and negatives. It's not all good, but it's not all bad either. I think there are both positives and negatives here, and I don't think it's quite as bad as some people are making it out to be. If you are a small channel, there are alternate revenue sources you can look into. Things like Patreon, things like streaming on Twitch, things like merchandise, Teespring, stuff like that. There are alternate sources of revenue that you should pursue, and honestly, that I should be pursuing as well, because you should never put all of your eggs in one basket on a platform like YouTube where anything could change at any minute. You never know. YouTube could just decide we don't want gaming channels on the platform anymore, and then every gaming channel on YouTube would disappear overnight, and there would be nothing we could do about it. But I think if you take the time to look into it and use this rather than woe is me, look at this as a way to set a goal. You know, use this as a source of motivation and as a goal, just another challenge to overcome, because I promise you that the road to becoming a full-time YouTuber is filled with challenges of many sorts, from YouTube, you know, coming from many different places. Some of them from YouTube as a platform, some of them from your personal life, some of them from time management, some of them from you name it. There are many, many challenges on the road ahead, and I would encourage people who are affected by this to look at this as just another challenge to overcome along the way. So, anyway, I've rambled on much longer than I intended to. I do get rambly on some of these things. One final thought before I go. I've seen a lot of people talking about sub for sub. Don't sub for sub. Don't do it. First of all, it's against YouTube's terms of service. Second of all, it accomplishes nothing. Third of all, it's cheating. It's a dirty, rotten trick, and anyone in the YouTube community who partakes in sub for sub is looked down upon by the people who did the work and put in the time to get to where they are today. Don't do it. Don't sub for sub. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Discussion in the comments below. Please keep it civil. I know that controversial things like this can lead to tempers, and people can be very passionate about it. I would encourage people to look at all sides of it and to, you know, certainly have a discussion, certainly be willing to debate pros and cons in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well, but do so in a respectful manner, not just towards me, but towards everyone else. Guys, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.